Society tells you that living alone means you're waiting for the right person, waiting for your life to begin, waiting to be complete. What if I told you you're not waiting at all? You're arriving. This isn't about being anti-relationship. This is about something far more revolutionary, something our culture desperately wants to hide from you. Living alone might be the most profound act of self-love you'll ever commit. But here's what nobody tells you. Society has programmed you to believe that solitude equals loneliness, that being alone means you're broken, incomplete, waiting for someone else to make you whole. What if I told you this is the biggest lie you've ever been sold? What if the very thing you've been taught to fear is actually your greatest teacher, your most honest mirror, your doorway to authentic power? Listen to me carefully. I've spent decades observing human behavior, watching people lose themselves in relationships, watching them dim their light to fit into someone else's shadow. And I've witnessed the miraculous transformation that happens when someone finally comes home to themselves. You see, when you live alone, you meet yourself without filters, no audience to perform for, no one to impress or accommodate, just raw, unedited you. And that terrifies most people, because most people have spent their entire lives running from themselves, using relationships as a drug, a distraction, a way to avoid the profound work of self-discovery. Think about Emma, 32 years old. She moved from her parents' house straight into her boyfriend's apartment, then from his place to her husband's home. She's never spent a single night completely alone, never chosen her own furniture, never decorated a space that reflected only her taste. Emma doesn't even know what kind of music she likes when no one else is listening. This is what we call emotional amnesia, when you forget who you are because you've never given yourself permission to find out. But you're different. You're here because something inside you recognizes the truth that living alone isn't isolation, it's integration. When you live alone, you discover your authentic rhythms. You learn that you're actually a morning person, not a night owl. You realize you hate small talk, but love deep conversations with yourself. You find out that silence isn't empty, it's full of possibilities. Your space becomes a sanctuary. Every object you choose tells your story. Every color on your walls reflects your soul. Your home becomes an extension of your inner world, not a compromise between two different visions. And here's where it gets profound. When you're not constantly negotiating your needs with someone else, you start to hear your own voice clearly, that quiet wisdom inside you that's been drowned out by relationship noise for years. You know that voice, the one that whispers your deepest truths, the one that knows exactly what you need before your mind catches up, the one that's been waiting patiently for you to listen. Living alone gives you the space to have a love affair with yourself, not in a narcissistic way, in a deeply nurturing way. You become both the lover and the beloved, the teacher and the student, the parent and the child. You learn to comfort yourself when you're sad, to celebrate yourself when you succeed, to forgive yourself when you stumble. These aren't selfish acts. They're revolutionary acts of self-sufficiency. But let's talk about what you're really afraid of, the stigma, the judgment, the friends who ask when you're going to settle down, as if settling is something to aspire to. Here's what they don't understand. You're not settling, you're rising. You're choosing authenticity over approval, growth over comfort. Yes, there will be moments of loneliness, but loneliness and being alone are completely different experiences. Loneliness is the feeling that something is missing. Being alone is the recognition that you are complete. You can be lonely in a crowded room. You can be lonely next to someone you've shared a bed with for 20 years. Loneliness isn't about the number of people around you. It's about your relationship with yourself. When you truly embrace living alone, loneliness transforms into solitude. And solitude is where all great insights are born, where creativity flourishes, where your soul finally has room to breathe. And here's something beautiful that happens. When you become complete within yourself, you stop attracting relationships based on neediness. You stop choosing partners to fill your empty spaces because there are no empty spaces left to fill. If you choose to be in a relationship after truly living alone, it comes from overflow, not deficit, from wholeness, not brokenness, from choice, not desperation. You become someone who enhances rather than completes, someone who adds to rather than subtracts from, someone who loves from strength rather than weakness. And then I say, but most people never reach this place because they're too afraid to be alone with their own thoughts. They fill every quiet moment with noise, every empty space with people, every pause with activity. They're running from the most important conversation they'll ever have, the one with themselves. Living alone forces this conversation. But this discomfort is growth trying to happen. It's your soul pushing against the boundaries of who you thought you were, reaching toward who you're meant to become. In your alone space, you don't have to be anyone for anyone. You can ugly cry without judgment, dance badly without embarrassment, talk to yourself without explanation. These aren't frivolous freedoms. They're profound expressions of self-acceptance. They're practice sessions for loving yourself exactly as you are. And when you truly love yourself, you become magnetic in the most authentic way. Not because you're trying to attract someone, but because you're radiating wholeness. People are drawn to authenticity. They're attracted to someone who has done the inner work and found peace in their own company. Your alone time teaches you to be your own best friend, your own wise counselor, your own source of comfort and joy. This doesn't mean you become an island. It means you become a lighthouse, grounded in your own foundation, shining your own light, strong enough to weather any storm. And if storms come in your relationships, you won't be devastated, because your sense of self isn't dependent on someone else's presence or approval. You know who you are when no one is watching. You know what you stand for when no one is listening. You know your worth when no one is affirming it. This is the ultimate freedom. The freedom from needing external validation to feel valuable. The freedom from waiting for permission to live fully. Your alone time isn't preparation for a relationship. It's preparation for life, real life, authentic life, the life where you're the author of your own story instead of a supporting character in someone else's drama. Because you've tasted the sweetness of your own company. You've experienced complete self-acceptance. You've felt the power of being truly known by the one person who matters most, you. Living alone isn't about building walls. It's about building a foundation so strong that whatever you choose to build on top of it will be magnificent. Whether that's continued solitude, meaningful friendships, creative projects, or eventually a relationship that enhances rather than replaces your sense of self. You see, when you're complete within yourself, every relationship becomes a choice, not a necessity. Every connection becomes an addition, not a requirement. Every love becomes a gift, not a rescue mission. And if you choose to remain alone, there's profound beauty in that path too. There's deep fulfillment in being your own companion. There's great wisdom in choosing yourself again and again in a world that tells you that's not enough. You are enough. Not because someone tells you so, but because you've spent time discovering the truth of your own magnificent complexity. You've sat with your shadows and your light. You've learned to hold space for all parts of yourself. This is what living alone really teaches you, that you are not half of something waiting to be completed. You are not broken, needing to be fixed. You are not empty, needing to be filled. You are whole, complete, magnificent in your solitude, powerful in your self-possession, beautiful in your authenticity. And when you truly know this, everything changes. The way you move through the world, the way you make decisions, the way you treat yourself and others, the way you show up in every area of your life. You stop apologizing for taking up space. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You stop dimming your light to avoid casting shadows on someone else's insecurities. You become radically, unapologetically yourself. And that version of you is worth every moment of solitude it took to discover. So here's your invitation, not to avoid relationships forever, but to fall in love with your own company first. To become so comfortable in your own skin that being alone feels like coming home. Create a life so beautiful, so fulfilling, so aligned with your truth that you don't need anyone else to validate it. Build a relationship with yourself so deep, so honest, so nurturing, that every other relationship becomes optional rather than essential. This is your time, your space, your opportunity to discover who you really are when all the noise falls away, when all the expectations dissolve, when all the masks come off. You are about to meet the most interesting person you'll ever know, the most loyal friend you'll ever have, the most understanding companion you'll ever encounter. You are about to meet yourself. And that meeting might just change everything. Because living alone doesn't make you antisocial. It makes you selective. It doesn't make you bitter. It makes you discerning. It doesn't make you incomplete, it makes you whole. And whole people create beautiful lives, with or without partners, with or without approval, with or without anyone else's permission. Your life is waiting for you to show up fully. Your dreams are waiting for you to listen clearly. Your potential is waiting for you to stop hiding behind other people's expectations and start living your own truth. The most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself. Everything else is just extra, beautiful extra when it's right, but extra nonetheless. You're not waiting for your life to begin when someone else arrives. Your life is happening right now, in this moment, in this breath, in this choice to honor yourself enough to discover who you really are. But let me share something that will shift your perspective forever. Most people think living alone is about isolation. They imagine you sitting in a dark room, eating takeout, binge-watching shows to fill the void. This couldn't be further from the truth. When you live alone consciously, you become more connected to life than ever before, more present, more aware, more alive. You start noticing things you missed when your attention was constantly divided between yourself and someone else. The way morning light hits your kitchen table, the sound of rain against your windows, the feeling of your feet on the floor as you walk through your space. This isn't just mindfulness, this is coming alive to your own existence. And something magical happens when you're fully present in your own life. You stop living in the future, waiting for someone to complete your story. You stop living in the past, rehashing old relationship wounds. You start living right here, right now, in the fullness of this moment. Your alone time becomes sacred time. Time for deep thinking, time for creative expression, time for spiritual connection, time for the kind of self-reflection that transforms you from the inside out. You discover that you're not just one person. You're a whole universe of thoughts, feelings, dreams, and possibilities. When you're constantly accommodating someone else, you only get to explore a fraction of who you are. But in solitude, all parts of you get to emerge. The artist, the philosopher, the child, the sage, the rebel, the nurturer. The visionary, you become a complete ecosystem rather than half of someone else's equation. And here's what society doesn't want you to know. The fear of being alone is actually fear of being powerful, fear of being responsible for your own happiness, fear of discovering that you don't need anyone to save you because you're perfectly capable of saving yourself. This terrifies a culture built on codependency, a culture that profits from your insecurities, a culture that needs you to believe you're incomplete, so you'll keep buying solutions, seeking fixes, chasing relationships to fill the imaginary void. But there is no void. There never was. There's just you, magnificent and whole, temporarily convinced you're broken. Living alone breaks this spell. It reveals the lie. It shows you that your own company is not just tolerable, it's delightful, enriching, transformative. You start having conversations with yourself that are deeper than conversations you've had with most people. You start understanding your own patterns, your own triggers, your own genius in ways that no one else ever could. And this self-acknowledge becomes your superpower. When you know yourself this deeply, you can't be manipulated. You can't be gaslit. You can't be convinced to accept less than you deserve. You can't be talked out of your truth or into someone else's dysfunction. You become unshakable, not because you're stubborn, but because you're grounded in authentic self-awareness. Think about Rebecca. She lived with roommates for 15 years, always had someone to talk to, share meals with, split bills with. She thought she was happy. She thought she was social. She thought she was living fully. Then circumstances forced her to live alone for the first time at 35. She was terrified. She didn't know how to be by herself. She filled every moment with podcasts, music, television, anything to avoid the silence. But gradually something shifted. In the quiet moments between the noise, she started hearing herself think. Really think, not just react to others or respond to demands, but actually think her own thoughts through to completion. She discovered she had opinions she'd never expressed, dreams she'd never shared, interests she'd never explored because they didn't align with her roommate's preferences. For the first time in her adult life, she ate what she wanted, when she wanted. She decorated exactly to her taste. She kept the schedule that felt natural to her body and spirit. And something beautiful happened. She didn't just learn to tolerate being alone, she fell in love with it. She realized that for 15 years, she'd been living someone else's life just with company. Now, she was finally living her own life, and it was magnificent. I mean, this is what living alone offers you. Not loneliness, liberation, not isolation, integration, not emptiness, fullness beyond measure. Your solitude becomes a sanctuary where you can process life without outside opinions clouding your clarity, where you can feel your feelings without someone else's emotions mixing with yours, where you can dream your dreams without someone else's fears limiting your vision. You learn that you're actually excellent company, interesting, funny, wise, comforting. All the things you've been looking for in other people, you discover within yourself. And when you're no longer seeking these qualities in others, you stop attracting people who are incomplete. You stop being drawn to relationships based on what you can get rather than what you can give. Your relationships, if you choose to have them, become collaborations between two whole people rather than rescue missions between two broken halves. But even if you never choose partnership again, you'll never be lonely because you've learned the ultimate secret. You are your own soulmate, your own best friend, your own most trusted advisor. And that relationship, the one with yourself, is the only one that's guaranteed to last your entire lifetime. Isn't it time you invested in making it extraordinary? Living alone isn't settling for less, it's recognizing that you are enough. not as a consolation prize, as the grand prize. The greatest gift you could ever give yourself is the gift of your own undivided attention. So stop waiting for permission to live fully. Stop waiting for someone else to make your life meaningful. Stop waiting for external validation to know you're valuable. Your life is happening now. Your dreams are calling now. Your potential is available now. And you, beautiful you, are ready now. But here's the deeper truth that most people miss entirely. Living alone isn't just about creating space for yourself. It's about becoming the kind of person who deserves the space they occupy. When you're constantly in relationships, you can hide behind shared responsibilities, shared blame, shared decisions. You never fully own your choices because there's always someone else to point to. A living alone strips away these comfortable illusions. Every decision is yours. Every consequence is yours. Every success and every failure belongs entirely to you. This radical ownership transforms you. You can't blame your messy house on someone else. You can't blame your financial struggles on a partner's spending. You can't blame your unhappiness on someone else's mood. You become 100% accountable for your own experience. And accountability is where true power lives. Most people run from this level of responsibility. They'd rather share the burden, even if it means sharing the glory. They'd rather have someone to blame than someone to celebrate with. But you're different. You understand that taking full responsibility for your life isn't a burden, it's the ultimate freedom. When you own your life completely, you get to design it completely. No compromises, no negotiations, no settling for the lowest common denominator between two different visions. You get to create a life that reflects your deepest values, your truest desires, your most authentic self-expression. And something profound happens when you live this authentically. You start attracting experiences, opportunities, and yes, even people who resonate with your truth rather than your masks. Your energy becomes clean, clear, undiluted by the need to please or perform or pretend. This authenticity is magnetic in the deepest sense, not because you're trying to attract anything, but because you've stopped repelling your own good by living out of alignment with yourself. Think about how you feel when you meet someone who is completely comfortable in their own skin. Someone who doesn't need your approval or agreement. Someone who is genuinely content with their own company. There's something irresistible about that energy, something peaceful and powerful at the same time, something that makes you want to know their secret. The secret is this: they've learned to be alone without being lonely. They've learned to love themselves without being selfish. They've learned to be complete without being closed off. And they've discovered that the relationship with yourself sets the template for every other relationship in your life. When you treat yourself with respect, you expect respect from others. When you speak kindly to yourself, you won't tolerate cruel words from anyone else. When you keep promises to yourself, you recognize the importance of integrity in all relationships. Your alone time becomes a laboratory for learning how to love well, how to listen deeply, how to hold space for difficult emotions, how to comfort without fixing, how to celebrate without competing. These skills learned in solitude transform every interaction you have with others. You become a better friend because you've learned to befriend yourself. You become a better partner if you choose partnership because you've learned to partner with yourself first. Living alone teaches you the difference between being supported and being enabled, between being loved and being needed, between being chosen and being settled for. You stop confusing intensity with intimacy, drama with passion, codependency with love. You learn that real love is calm, steady, supportive of growth rather than afraid of change. And you learn to give this kind of love to yourself first. Because here's what changes everything. When you become the kind of person you want to be in a relationship with, everything shifts. Your standards rise. Your tolerance for dysfunction disappears. Your ability to spot authenticity becomes laser sharp. You stop attracting projects, people who need fixing, people who want to complete you or be completed by you. Instead, you attract fellow whole people, people who enhance your life rather than requiring you to diminish it. But even more importantly, you realize that attracting anyone isn't the goal anymore. Living fully is the goal. Being authentically yourself is the goal. Creating a life so rich and meaningful that sharing it becomes optional rather than necessary. This is the revolution that living alone offers. Not the revolution against relationships, the revolution against settling, against compromising your truth, against accepting less than you deserve because you're afraid of being alone. When you're no longer afraid of solitude, you become fearless in all areas of your life. You speak up when you need to. You set boundaries when you should. You walk away when it's time. You stop participating in relationships that require you to be smaller than you are. You stop accepting crumbs from people who should be offering you the whole meal. You become selective, discerning, protective of your energy and your space and your peace. And this selectivity isn't mean or harsh or judgmental. It's loving. It's wise. It's the natural result of knowing your own worth so deeply that you can't unsee it, even when others can't see it at all. So tonight, when you close your bedroom door and turn off the lights, remember this: you are not alone because no one wants you. You are alone because you have chosen yourself. You have chosen growth over comfort, truth over convenience, authenticity over approval. You have chosen the path that leads to real power, real peace, real fulfillment. And tomorrow morning, when you wake up in your own space, in your own bed, to your own schedule, you'll understand something that most people never discover. The person you've been looking for your whole life has been there all along, looking back at you in the mirror, waiting patiently for you to come home, ready to love you exactly as you are and support you in becoming everything you're meant to be. This is your invitation, not just to live alone, but to live fully, authentically, courageously, to stop waiting for someone else to give you permission to be magnificent, to stop looking for someone else to make you feel complete. You already are complete. You already are magnificent. You already are everything you need. The only question that remains is this: are you brave enough to discover just how powerful, how beautiful, how absolutely extraordinary you become when you finally, fully choose yourself? Your answer to that question will determine everything. And deep down, you already know what your answer is. Trust it, trust yourself, trust the journey. Your most beautiful life is waiting for you to show up and claim it. Alone, complete, unstoppable.